Hello, fellow cinephiles, and welcome back to another edition of the ONETA Movie Show, brought to you by PTE Creative. As always, we are your hosts. I'm Evan Davies, followed by our favorite internet bald man and movie expert, Dylan Davies. So much enthusiasm for this film today. We are
Yeah.
doing a crossover episode with the ONETA Show once again. We're continuing our cult classic series by watching a modern favorite of mine, which is sure to be a cult hit in the next 10 to 15 years. Lisa Frankenstein. Absolutely adore this film. Dylan,
How many times have you seen it?
I've had to watch this at least 7 times by now. It's got to be, it's the
Okay.
minimum 5, but it might be up to 7. Because I watched it once by myself, watched it once with Ab, and then I think I watched it 2 or 3 times alone, just like throwing something on, just because I was
hmm
bored. And I was like, oh, well, that'll make me laugh. Or I was in a bad mood. I was like, that'll make me laugh. And then we just rewatched it with a friend. So it's got to be 5 or 6 times at the very least.
Okay.
So we intentionally went Lisa Frankenstein because we wanted something that at least one of us had some positivity to say. Where we thought we'd get that with
Yeah.
the Black Cauldron, and we didn't very much. Outside of
Yeah, that's true.
we love it, but it's highly problematic. So here we wanted to make sure that there's a movie that at least one of us was very positive about. Do you have any general thoughts before we start going scene by scene here?
Um, yeah, unfortunately this movie just kind of fell right in that middle zone where I didn't love it, but I also don't hate it. Like it's not a
Okay.
bad movie or anything.
Yeah.
It just yeah, it just kind of fell right in the middle of it, of in between good and bad.
You know what? That's sadly a better average than we've been batting on this film on these cult classic
True.
series. So, I mean, outside of The Exorcist, have we done a movie yet that we're like, yeah?
Yeah. Well, there's things I really like in the movie, and then there's things that I just like. Um, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. All
We'll
right.
get into it.
So we're kind of going to go a little scene by scene ish, but we're going to try to not do our usual 2.5 hours. But I have no issue if we do the 2.5 hours because I love this film. All right.
Well, first off, do you know who directed this?
Zelda Williams. It's her first. It's her
Yeah, who is the daughter of Robin Williams?
correct Amundo. I knew that
Which,
immediately when I saw Zelda. I was like, oh, it's Robin Williams' daughter because he named it.
yeah,
He named his daughter after the Legend of Zelda series.
because I went on IMDb and then I was like, Zelda Williams, why does that sound so familiar? And then I remembered that I had seen an interview where Robin Williams was talking about his daughter Zelda. And I was like, holy shit. I had no idea she was even remotely like in the film industry at all.
Well, the thing is, this is. I think actually, I'm glad you brought this up. This team, this creative team behind this movie, is a very interesting mix of people. You have
True.
Zelda Williams with her directorial debut, which even if you want to say the movie is meh, or if you're someone who hates the movie, I don't think this is a movie that should be shit upon. You should
No.
if this is your first effort as a director, this is something to be really proud of. Because you hit a lot of
Yeah.
quality notes throughout, and there's a lot of good character development throughout. Um, so no matter
It's
what, it's
it's
quality.
yeah, it's not like the movie's a mess or anything, which happens a lot with first
First
time
time.
directors.
And it is incredibly coherent. And if it's not your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea. But it's
Yeah.
incredibly coherent and straightforward. And everything in this world makes sense, so to speak, within the world that they've created. And then to have, I think it's pretty fair to say, a polarizing but high quality writer in Diablo Cody, who clearly
Yeah.
has her sensibilities throughout this, and it must match Zelda Williams very much because it felt like this creative team was very cohesive, very much understood what they were doing. Whereas, let's take it back to 2 shows ago with the Black Cauldron. That you said it best. You're like, it feels like the old animators were trying to pass it off to the new animation team,
Yeah.
and they just couldn't get in sync. This feels like a creative team that was very much in sync with everything that they wanted to do.
Yeah. The only person who I don't think, well, they did a perfectly fine job, but I don't really love it, is the cinematography. I feel like the style of the shots and everything doesn't truly match with the rest of the tone that well. It's almost shot more like a typical like high school movie, whereas this, in terms of the style of writing and the characters, are like completely zany and out there.
Yeah,
Whereas like a lot of the camera work is just kind of bland actually at times.
I can see your point on that. I don't think it's inherently wrong, but I think that also, in a weird way, may help ground this movie a little bit. Because you're right, it's very zany. It's very much its own taste, its own sensibility, and so it needs a grounding factor. So to keep it in that very much middle America high school straightforward film allows it to be grounded in this very zany thing. I'm not. I don't think there's. I don't know if there's a lot of shots that I'm like, whoa. There's no shots like that in this
It,
movie.
no, I more mean like when you watch a Wes Anderson movie,
Yeah,
you know it's him. Like he has a very specific visual style.
absolutely.
This movie kind of like dips their toe into one, but then it doesn't fully commit, which is part of the problem, I think.
Yeah, there's
But
a.
it's not like horribly shot or anything. Like it looks good. It's just the style isn't 100% there for me.
I could see that. I think
That was
there's.
pretty much my biggest problem with the movie. Other than that, I actually really enjoyed it.
I think that says a lot right there. So as we begin, the opening sequence isn't an action sequence in terms of even live action. It's an animated sequence, theoretically giving you the backstory of this movie's Frankenstein monster.
Yeah.
It,
And we just talked about it with The Exorcist opening credits. How often you get those nowadays?
exactly. I think that's another reason I immediately got pulled into this film was I watched this movie on a whim, like a week after it came onto Peacock, which is only like 2 months after its theatrical release because it just did not do well in theaters. And I was
Not at
like,
all.
and I was watching. I just went and was like, let's see what this movie is about because the second I saw, I like Catherine Newton as an actress. I think she just has a fun, quirky personality, and when that is showcased well, as in this movie, I think it's really enjoyable. I don't think she does traditional angsty teen super well. I think she does really well
Yeah.
playing. I think she does really well playing these zany, crazy kind of characters like we have in this film. So like I remember being excited when I saw her in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and kind of going, after watching it.
Yeah. I think the problem is Diablo Cody's kind of writes for like very left of center characters. Like they're not like traditional characters at all. Like Elliot, or I guess Elliot Page now. And Juno, like that fits the character. Like that character is like obviously not like a bombshell or anything. And I think Catherine Newton kind of falls a little too much into that like, you know, typical hot young actress kind of thing.
But I think it's played really well here. I think
No, no,
that's
yeah, she's good in the movie. It's just it's one of those things where it's like Hollywood obviously will just cast the most attractive person they can, even
yeah,
if it doesn't fit the character as well.
yeah, and I think it does here. But I think with a different writing team, this could very much not feel authentic. That's I think the one thing I will say about growing into adulthood and just watching movies to enjoy them again. Like it took me a long time when we first started doing movie reviews. I remember going to movies that I thought I would probably enjoy, and then I couldn't turn the reviewer off, and I would just be critiquing the whole time. And it's taken
Yeah.
me a long time to be able to just go turn it off, watch the movie, and then go in afterwards, unless you have to write notes for the show, so to speak. Then go in and give your thoughts afterwards. Whereas when I went in and saw, I say it all the time, but when I saw Top Gun Maverick or when I saw Avengers Endgame or a lot of different films of the past 10 years, when I finally learned how to go turn it off, just go watch the movie, then talk about it afterwards, it made it a lot easier to then just enjoy things that I wanted to enjoy. And I think that was kind of the beauty here is this movie is incredibly authentic. And if you go in with a critical lens, you don't understand that it's just a fun, quirky movie all its own. It doesn't try to be Oscar winning material. It doesn't try to be, some big spectacle movie that it can't deliver. It's just a fun coming of age rom com with a Frankenstein twist to it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't pretend to be anything different. So I think that's why I enjoy this as much as I do. Because it allows you to do that and be a part of something. But right away, the opening credits, the animation sequence is interesting because it sort of tells the story of the Frankenstein monster in a indirect, vague kind of way. But it gives us that opening credit scene to really get into the world, get into the movie. And I think when I first started watching this, I was like, what the hell is this? I was excited. I was intrigued. I wanted to see more, but I was like, this is not the movie I thought I was getting. But in a weird way, it really ties it all together to put it into that weird, spooky kind of realm that it's always trying to put
Yeah.
it in.
The intro's very Tim Burton-y.
Very Tim Burton. Very Tim Burton. And then it opens with, when we get to our first live action sequence, it's Lisa Frankenstein. Lisa's doing etchings of gravestones,
Gravestones.
and she
Which
etches her name and then
have you ever
signs
heard
it with
of
lipstick.
have you ever heard of a podcast called Ologies? It's like a science-based
No, I have not.
podcast. They bring on different experts of different like sciences, and one of them was about cemeteries. And I learned that gravestone etchings are like super problematic in that world because the more people do them, the more the gravestone deteriorates, and then it just becomes a blank stone.
Huh.
So I was like, yeah, I just connected that when I saw that.
Interesting. Didn't know that. It works well in this movie, but apparently
Yeah,
not in
because
real
people
life.
do it a lot for like the really old historical ones, that are
Mm.
already in bad shape, and then they make it worse.
Yeah, no one's gonna go unless you're a family member. No one's gonna go etch a brand new headstone. That's not going
Yeah,
to be useful to anybody, frankly. And that's where I think it's obviously interesting to see where things go with that. But she's doing an etching, and then she just signs it in lipstick, and that's our sequence to start the movie. And very much is it's got that classic '80s tune to it. And immediately puts you back in '80s, and that's how the movie opens.
yeah.
I think it's just such a
Love
unique
this.
way to do it.
I love the needle drop there too. The Promise, great song.
Yeah, it's a great song, and immediately it's overdone. That song is overdone in movies. You can't dispute
Eh,
that.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen it though, so
I
I was okay with it.
I feel like I watch way too much stuff from the '80s or love that echoes back to the '80s. So I
Yeah,
probably
that's
hear it
probably why.
a lot more. But it's an overused song. But when it's done well and it's done with the correct tone, it immediately is transported back to where it needs to be. And
Yeah,
it's a song that oddly really puts you in that ethos of the '80s.
yeah. It definitely has that '80s synth sound.
Yes, very much so. It's I think the best use of it outside of this movie that I've ever seen. It's actually Napoleon Dynamite towards the end of the movie, which is just
Napoleon Dynamite has Napoleon Dynamite has multiple great needle drop.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And so that's another one for the cult classic series. We'll eventually have to get to is Napoleon Dynamite. But
I'd be okay with that.
oh yeah, but I mean, if only I still had my vote for Pedro shirt. But um, this very much was a sequence that did its job. It's exactly what we talked
Yeah,
about with The Exorcist. When a good opening credits sequence is done well, it immediately sets the tone for your entire film. And this
yeah,
one showed weariness, it shows a spooky nature to it, it shows that it's a very weird and different kind of world and kind of vibe. And then
yeah,
with the signing of the lipstick and the hit and that needle drop of promise, it still is very zany and fun, and it's not.
yeah.
You know,
It,
it's not going to be super serious.
yeah, it sets up a tone that's like spooky but not heavy.
Yes, very much so. This is, we already talked about it that we're going to probably do some Halloween related episodes once we get closer to late September or in October. This is certainly going to be part of a Halloween rotation for me because I know it's something that if I have people over that are like, "What do we want to do? Let's watch a Halloween movie." This is something I will pick because a lot of the other things I would probably pick are going to be way too heavy for other people.
Yeah,
Whereas if you have, you want to keep it light and playful and have some fun, this is a movie that'll do that and put you in that mood.
yeah,
Um, but the opening sequence immediately puts you in that tone and gets you straight into this girl is strange and weird. There's something endearing about her. You want to root for her immediately, but she's a little off. It's just a little
yeah.
difference there, which I appreciate. So then we're transformed into apparently the year is 1989. Um,
Okay, I didn't know which year it was, but I knew it was '80s. That's one of the things that I think is actually underutilized is the '80s setting
a little bit.
because like they have little lines that reference the '80s and stuff, but they don't ever like have anything that's like a landmark '80s kind of thing.
I think that's probably. I think you're right that they could use another 80s landmark to help them out. Early Stranger Things esque, where you
Yeah,
use
I
those
guess
big
you
tent
could
poles.
you could argue like maybe it's kind of overdone nowadays, so maybe they were going for like
Yeah.
not trying to hit anyone over the head with it. Because Stranger Things at times is a little too much, even for the '80s nostalgia.
Oh, 1,000%. As someone who is an adoring fan of Stranger Things and will die on the hill of Stranger Things, yeah, I'll be the first to admit there's times that I'm like, all right, guys, we get it, 80s.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I I believe it's probably best that that was the choice. That
yeah,
they wanted to put you in that place. They wanted you to have that sensibility and that feeling. The other thing is the 80s is the last time for most people to tangibly believe something of a murder mystery can kind of occur. Which this movie isn't a murder mystery, but it has to play the sensibilities of how long can this keep going before she's discovered. By the way, spoiler alert for the
true.
movie. But once you get
Well,
into the
obviously,
90s,
yeah.
yeah, once you get into the 90s, once you get into those worlds where cell phones and the internet are coming into play, it's a lot harder for people to start accepting things. You have to be you have to mind your P's and Q's a lot in a murder
Yeah,
mystery from the 90s forward, where in the 80s you can
and
kind of get away with some shit.
yeah, and it's distant enough in the past where it doesn't leave a foul taste in your mouth. Like if I were to make a comedy nowadays about like school shootings, that would not go down very well.
No, not at
But
all.
but because the '80s are like pretty far in the past, distant enough where like it can still fit this fun. style.
Yes. So, I mean, I mean, 89 was 34, 35 years ago. So, yeah, you can get away with it. And so you just immediately want to root for this girl in some weird way because it's just the fun tone of what's going on.
Yeah, Catherine Newton is very likable,
And
just as a person.
yeah, she is. And I just love that. I love that sensibility that is used in this movie so well. In that you there's a girl that's just so weird here. She's just so weird and I love it and it makes you there's something tangible about that to allow you to see yourself in the eyes of the character. It's what every good
Yeah,
protagonist is written like. Is there something for you to connect with, to root for you? This goes back to our Madam Web conversation. Madam Web spent 2 hours failing to get you to connect with the main character.
yeah.
And within a
What?
five-second intro piece that's part of a 3 minute weird Tim Burton animation sequence, you're immediately like, I like this girl. There's something to her. She's cool.
Yeah, I would say this is a good example of a um, good first 10 minutes or first good 10 pages of a script. You set up the character. You set up little things like the tanning bed is set up at the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
which will come back into play. And then you also have them going to a party. You can tell she's more of a wallflower. And then you also have an exposition dump that doesn't feel like an exposition dump.
Yeah.
Like
The
the
flashback sequence.
sister, yeah, the sister telling the story about how her mom died, and you that both reveal stuff about Catherine Newton's character and also the stepsister.
Yeah.
So it's a good example of good writing.
So right away, right off the bat, you have a girl in Lisa who is clearly damaged and weird and different. She goes to graveyards to spend time with the gravestones and etchings. She puts her mom's rosary over the gravestone of our Frankenstein, Cole Sprouse. And,
And apparently that cemetery is real.
huh, interesting.
It's a bachelor's cemetery. It's apparently a cemetery in Chicago, which
Huh.
fits because they mentioned Milwaukee later.
It would make sense. It would make sense. So, and also, that was another reason why I immediately got. There's a lot of little. If you know it, there's a lot of little dustings of the Midwest in there, which makes it
Yeah, I
feel
wish
more
there were more
tangible and real.
because I love, obviously, because we're from the Midwest.
Yeah.
Like I love references that don't hit you on the head, but they're definitely Midwesternisms.
But if you know it, you know it. You absolutely.
Yes.
If you know it, you know it, and it. Those are the kind of references that, unless they're so good, beating you over head that you just accept them. Those are the references that really work in movies because you either go, "Huh, that's weird. I don't get it," but like they get the tone across, or you're like, "I got it. I see you. I see you,
Yeah.
motherfuckers." So you already have a character. She's putting a rosary on a gravestone, and all this kinds of shit. It's absurd. And then, oh, it's the big party. Taffy, her stepsister. I love the balance they play with Taffy because immediately you're like, I'm gonna hate this bitch. She's gonna suck, and you
Oh,
don't.
really? I actually thought she was immediately likable. I think she's actually the most interesting character in the movie.
I think Taffy is incredibly well written. That this is a. I love the writing of this film. You can tell a writer really had control of this film because with Taffy, that first sequence where she's being condescendingly nice to Lisa, you can tell she's trying to be nice. But you can also
Yeah.
say, that's a real bitch move. You could just say, hey, if you want to look your best, you can go use my tanning bed and insinuate it. But instead, she's just like, and you need help, babe. And so
Yeah.
so you're like, from the second the movie opens, you're waiting for that other shoe to drop. Is when is Taffy gonna be a bitch? When is she gonna?
Well,
When are you gonna hate her?
yeah.
And it never comes because she balances that. I'm the head cheerleader. I'm the popular girl, but I actually do care. I actually do love you. I actually do
Yeah.
all these things, and I have more depth than I'm given credit for. It's told really well, and I really enjoy that about
Yeah,
Taffy.
she's a popular bitch with a good heart.
That is the best way to say it. And so she is a tanning bed because she was Miss Tropic USA, I believe, and
Yeah,
Miss
something
Teen,
like that. Yeah.
Teen or Miss Teen Tropic USA, um, which is absurd, and I adore it. And she's like, I would use my position for good to help people, and you need help, babe. So, right, like you said, they set up the tanning bed. Lisa comes in with like the most absurd swimsuit shorts, crazy hair combination ever. Looks awkward from the get go, but it hits really well because that's exactly how an awkward teen at the time would go into a tanning bed, and immediately gets electrocuted. And then they don't play anything; it just cuts straight to a car on the road to a party. And the reason I wanted to really go into that right away is instead of going straight to the party sequence, is the dialogue from Jump is just so authentically teen, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. That's why I really like the Taffy character and the actress who played her, because she has like lines that could easily be read really like not to say like stereotypical, but like when she says that's really weird, Lisa, like you can tell it's like she really means it, but it's actually like out of concern, not out of like dismissing her.
It's not out of judgment; it's out of concern.
Yes.
It's a judgment. It's the best way to interpret her mother's character, in which I love my mom, and my mom plays as though she's very interested in others. She's not. Where I actually interpret all those skills that my mother believes she has, I actually take them and use them, which really gives a lot of character depth. But just Taffy, cheerleader. Oh, are you hot for anyone right now? Like asking if Lisa's into boys, and into any boys at the new school that they're going to. And she's like, "Oh, does he, does he have a football bod or a basketball bod?" And just this quote immediately gets me. He doesn't play sports. He's cerebral. It's just so
That's a good line.
self-indulgent, self-indulgent, dark, twisted teenager that really
Yeah.
believes they know. Oh, that
And
line
actually,
immediately sets up this whole movie for me because I'm like, this is the space we're in. This is authentically teen who thinks they know shit.
I would have loved to see this movie with a teenage Winona Ryder as the main character. Like,
Ooh,
I feel like she would have nailed it. Like, considering she was in Heather's, which this has a very definite
it's
Heather's vibe to it,
Heather's vibe.
especially later.
There's some Heather's to it. There's some Edward Scissorhands to it. There's a little Beetlejuice
Yeah,
to it. Like you can clearly tell Diablo
yeah,
Cody and Zelda Williams were huge early Tim Burton fans because it's like
yeah.
an early those late '90s Winona films very much have an influence on this movie, which I
And
think
this
is a
this
tremendous
movie
idea.
does it doesn't go as dark as Heather's, but
No,
it does go pretty dark towards the end.
it gets dark, and it's balanced
Yeah,
with so much light and fun, but it's dark. It gets dark.
yeah,
So we make it to this party sequence, and like you said, we get an exposition dump that doesn't feel like an exposition dump. With the flashback sequence of Lisa's mother is murdered by an axe murderer who was never found. And you just accept it. You're like, okay. And she
yeah.
keeps.
I actually I really wanted the stepmother to be the person who murdered the mom.
I feel like that's what they were nodding at as well. but they didn't go there. I would have adored that even more, but I think that brings in too many. I think you then lose focus on Lisa,
That's true. Yeah.
and you lose focus on her transformation a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be more of a plot driven story where this is more of a character study, really.
Absolutely. So I love during that expositional dump, it keeps cutting back to the party, and this story of Lisa's mother being axe murdered is started by telling one girl who's, well, I can trust you because you're my cheer sister. And then it cuts back to real life from a comment about the story, and then there's another girl there. And then there's another girl
Yeah.
there. And then there's another girl that has nothing to do with the cheer team, and she's just listening. And Taffy just keeps talking. Because it's very much, it's good natured. It's trying to, you're losing sight that this might not be great. All the while, Lisa.
Yeah, like I said, you're revealing this backstory for your main character while also revealing important information that's unspoken about Taffy.
Yeah.
Because you can tell she's kind of like the ditzy, popular cheerleader, and she definitely doesn't have problems with like revealing stuff about other people,
No.
to say the least.
She does, but she doesn't. She truly believes she's not spreading rumors and secrets that she shouldn't.
Yeah.
She's telling.
Which I guess she's not technically.
She's telling a confidant about something, but then she doesn't have the power to stop herself once she begins, which is a very fun character dynamic. But it's also out of love immediately because then you see Lisa struggling at this party. She sees the boy that she loves, which inherently has to be bad boy leather jacket type. I'm damaged.
That guy looks so familiar to me, and I could not figure out who he looked like. And I still haven't figured it out. But I'm like, this guy looks so familiar.
He very much looks like any stereotypical 80s pretty boy, bad boy. He's the bad. Yeah. He's the kid from the bad side of the tracks but has a good heart. You just have to, you have to find a little bit, but it's not played like that.
He'd play the John Bender if he was in Breakfast Club.
Very much so. So, in this sequence, you get so much setup. I know we've spent so much time on the beginning of this film, but it's really well done. Because in the party sequence, you clearly see Lisa's in love with this kid he's deep and he's interesting because he is the editor of the school literary magazine. He doesn't play sports. He loves making old literary references. And then, of course, there's another bitchy, dark girl who is clearly in love with, bad boy Michael Trent is the character's name. Clearly in love with Michael, and she's the only one that she feels that she should be the only one that Michael gives attention to. So she gives Lisa a spiked drink and essentially drugs her, which is and it's done very 80s-esque, very much.
And it's not like it's a light drug either. It's PCP.
Like she drugs this girl, and the world starts to be distorted. Taffy comes over to get Michael Trent away from Lisa, thinking like, oh, he's a bad boy. Keep him away from Lisa, which is hilarious because then you're also seeing, is she overbearing or is she actually trying to be protective? Is she actually very caring or is she just truly trying to control the situation at all times? And the balance is struck very well early on because then you start revealing that character.
I didn't like the Michael Trent character, so I read it as the sister actually cares about her.
Yeah.
Like I never like thought, hey, this guy's kind of likable. Nah.
I thought he was fine.
Yeah, he's fine, but it's not like his character is all that likable. He's kind of pretentious.
Again, he's that self-inflated teen.
You know what's funny?
Who has some knowledge that other teens don't, and then believes that he is above them by being able to pull out Oscar Wilde quotes and other bullshit like that.
Yeah. What's funny is his character is what Cole Sprouse is in real life. Like kind of douchey, pretentious, thinks he's kind of like smarter than everyone else. Which again, that's part of the reason why it was kind of hard to connect with the Frankenstein type guy because it is so hard for me to take away the pretentiousness of Cole Sprout.
I find that extremely interesting to see. I don't follow Cole Sprouse enough to give a shit or to care. I just like
I
what
just
they're
know
doing.
like I've seen so many quotes from him and like memes and stuff, and he just sounds like the biggest fucking pretentious asshole.
I guess it works, and we're inspired very well. So, and she eventually finds that in this character. So we we're following Lisa. She's now drugged at this party. Taffy's distracted by Michael Trent. She keeps talking to him though after Lisa starts going kind of haywire because the PCP is kicking in. And then we start getting very dark sequencing, which I really appreciate. And she's fumbling around this house, trying to figure out what reality is and where reality starts and the PCP ends, so to speak. And Nerdy Boy, who's her lab partner, comes and helps her. And at first, he's so innocently played that you immediately give in and you're like, oh, every other movie, this is the good guy that you're supposed to root for.
Yeah,
So you immediately
yeah,
kind of give him the pass.
he'd be like the ducky in Pretty in Pink.
Very much so. So
Like yeah, meek, nerdy.
very much so. So he's the meek, nerdy kid. And they get eventually, she like stumbles to a bedroom and she starts vomiting and he holds her hair and you're immediately like, what a
Well,
nice guy.
he he intentionally leads her to a secluded area.
So
So
that
like it's suspect right away.
it's suspect, but at the same time, it's done really well with the shot that you're like, maybe he's just being a nice guy because that's what you've been
Yeah,
ingrained through movies to believe is that, well, no, the
yeah.
meek nerdy kid for 40 years, he's the good guy. So he's safe. Lisa's safe. We're okay. They sit on a bed just trying to like give Lisa a moment. The whole world's kind of spinning. That's, I think, good cinematography. That's some of the best stuff in the movie. Is those random little
Yeah.
sequences. And
And I wish they would follow more with that style. Because that sequence has like a lot of style to it.
very much so.
Whereas a lot of the other sequences don't.
Well, it allows you to feel what the character's going through a lot.
Yeah.
So you have that, and then it's cut, and you only see about neck up of Lisa as she's just kind of trying to grasp reality. And then Nerdy Boy decides to grab her chest and make a pass at her, really
Yeah.
going he just straight up sexually assaults her.
Well, I got a good laugh out of the first one though, because he feels her boob and then he says, "Does that feel good?" And I was like, what a fucking weird thing to ask a woman.
So a very different thing and very teenage. Very teenage,
Also,
clearly has no idea what
you
he's doing.
you know a lot more women than me.
I do. That is
Is
correct. I
is
actually speak
sexual
to people.
assault is sexual assault really that prevalent for teenagers? Because I never heard of it in high school, but then like I feel like it must have been for all these
Well, first of
high
all,
like
we're both men, so the likelihood of us
yeah,
getting sexually assaulted is very different than a woman. But second of
and it's
all,
not like we're shitty people either. We don't do
yeah,
that to people.
we're not shitty people. We are appalled by shit like that. Um,
Yeah.
so I would hope that would be this circumstance for every person on the planet, but unfortunately, that's not the way the world has really grown up and been a part of things. So it is incredibly prevalent, and shit like that happens all the time where there's a weird middle ground that it's not excusing anybody's behavior whatsoever. You still need to be a stand up.
And I actually like that. I like that in this movie. Like it, feels comedic at first, but then it is actually taken pretty seriously. It's
Very
not like
much
dismissed or
so.
anything.
What I love about that sequence is it feels very authentic. It feels real. Where, not to excuse the kid's actions whatsoever, he is clearly being predatory. He's clearly going after somebody in a weakened state. But he
Yeah.
believes because he has feelings and has feelings for this girl, theoretically, and he's doing something caring by holding her hair back while vomiting, and he's getting her away from other people that he feels now he has the right to do something that he doesn't. So,
Well, yeah, he turned from likable nerd into incel real quick.
very quickly. And so he immediately. That scene's great because it shows the weird middle ground areas of life that breed bad situations. Because that situation with a good person could very much be a very heartwarming, endearing moment where you get somebody and they're like, hey, I'm just here to take care of you. I'm going to sit over here. Or like, we'll sit on the bed, but we're clearly going to have some space. But I just want to make sure you're okay. Do you need a ride home? Do you need something like that? That's happened in so many other movies. And you can see, wow, that's a really good person there. It's really kind. Or you can go about it this way, where it's those weird middle ground moments that tell you about somebody, what happens when nobody's watching, and he decides, no, I'm going to sexually assault somebody. And
Yeah, and it's a good moment of subverting expectations.
it very much so. And I love that that's the moment that the entire movie kicks off with. Is if you're actually breaking down this film, we have the setup of this dark, weird girl. We have the setup of a strained family life in some way, shape, or form with Taffy, and then it's going to go even more extreme. We forgot to mention in the dream sequence, not the dream sequence, the flashback sequence of the axe murder of Lisa's mom. Taffy immediately ends really quickly and abruptly and says, but it's okay now because my mom and Dale got married like 6 months after it happened. So, Lisa's dad, Dale, he doesn't have to be sad anymore. And Lisa got a new mom out of the whole thing. So, and now we're all one big happy family. And you're like,
Yeah.
hold on. Brochacho married a new woman within like 6 months. And
Yeah.
just Lisa has a new mom.
I thought that was further evidence that the stepmom killed her.
I did too. I think that's what you're supposed to get at. But so we're already seeing Lisa's struggles socially, Lisa's struggles with who she is in this very bright pink bubblegum world of that they've set up. She is not that girl, and she's had traumatic experiences. She has a very strained life at this point where she's trying to figure out so many things. And then at this very moment, at this party deep at night and a storm starting to brew outside, that she gets sexually assaulted. She gets away, and of course the incel kid immediately goes, "Oh, it's not nice to lead people on, Lisa," as if she did anything
Oh
to,
yeah.
as if she did anything to suggest that that was okay what he did, or that she wished for something like that to happen. And
Yeah,
then,
that's where the true info comes out.
very much so, that's where you're like, "Fuck this kid." The lightning bolt strikes the gravesite right after she like goes there in her time of need. That's where she goes for comfort. She talks to the gravestone and says, "I wish I was with you," and then kind of like meanders away back home, and then a lightning bolt strikes the damn thing, and that's where the movie really kicks off. We spent like 45
Yeah.
minutes just talking about the intro, but this is what happens with good movies: is you really want to. Good writing ties a lot of stuff together really well into the. Um, so we have Lisa waking up, going, and apparently she broke a mirror the night before.
Oh, one sec. I
Yeah.
wanted to mention I really enjoyed that black and white.
Dream sequence?
Like, yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I was about to
And
go back to
then
that, yeah.
and then you got the ode to Trip to the Moon,
Yep.
which is like one of the first movies ever. 1902.
Yeah, you've got A Trip to the Moon odes in there. You have Bride of Frankenstein odes in there. You just have this very. Another thing I love about, again, it's authenticity. It feels tangible. It feels real. Is this dream sequence doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but speaks a lot to what's going on.
Yeah,
Is
and I think the tone is actually mostly done through scenes like that.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Where you have Lisa wakes up looking like the Bride of Frankenstein in this black and white, almost steampunk, but almost 1800s aristocracy bedroom. And then she just wakes up into, I'm getting married now, to this stone figure who we're insinuating he's coming to life now. She sees a picture of her mom who like winks at her, and then it's like ode to the moon kind of stuff, and then it just breaks into a small little piece of animation, and it cuts. It's a strange dream sequence because it feels like a dream. It feels like you're like, what the hell's happening? She at the same time is asking what the hell is happening with her eyes, but you can see she's accepting and moving forward with it. So it's showing her more deep desires of what she wants the world to be, what she wants to have happen. But at the same time, it also has the ideas of death, where you have a stone figure man, Bride of Frankenstein, I need to be revived back into life, so she already feels dead. It's doing a lot of those little nods to support the character and set the tone.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is that I don't like about it is it made me wish the entire movie was in black and white.
It would be a fun little nod.
I know that studios are pretty much never going to do that again, and the poppy kind of feel to it does fit in with the '80s settings. But I would have loved to have seen this all in black and white.
I would
It
love
would
to
have been
see.
great,
I'd love to see a ton of stuff in black and white. 'Cause I think it'd be far more
and I
interesting.
think it connect a lot more to the Frankenstein Bride of Frankenstein kind of thing too.
Fair, very fair.
Like young Frankenstein in color wouldn't be nearly as fun.
Oh, I remember. Isn't there a color copy of that somewhere that you can buy? There's like a color copy of
Well,
Young Frankenstein?
I know during the '80s, the whole Ted Turner was colorizing like tons of movies
Yeah,
that were in black and white. It was a whole thing, and yeah, I always hate the color copies of those movies.
and you're right. Young Frankenstein immediately feels like it's part of that world because it's in black and white,
Yeah,
because it feels tangible to what it's connecting to. So I think that would be interesting to have this movie all in black and white, but then I feel you might lose some of that. You might lose some of the tangibility of the 80s, not having those bright neon color pops and all that kind of stuff.
what studio was this? Was it Universal?
I think so.
Huh. I'm surprised they didn't utilize more of the Universal monsters than they did then.
They have them in the background. You see, like Creature of the Black Lagoon and the Mummy and like that kind of
Yeah,
stuff in the background.
yeah. If it is Universal, I think they could have used it more. I That would have been really enjoyable. As
Excuse me.
someone who we both really like the
I
Universal monster movies.
fucking love Universal Monster stuff. So the movie's now in full swing. Lisa, in a fit of life, essentially breaks the mirror before her dream sequence. And then you get to meet Janet, her evil
I gotta
stepmother.
say, Carla Gugino is one of the most underrated actresses in Hollywood.
Oh,
Like
she's
she
phenomenal.
is fantastic. Like it's incredible how good of an actor she is.
She fits so many roles so well, and she's so underappreciated. And I think at one time Zack Snyder when he was in charge of the DC stuff, he wanted her to play like an older Catwoman to Ben Affleck's Batman because he always has Carla Gugino in as many movies as he possibly can. Um, and it's something that I was like, I don't necessarily see her in that role, but I would be very interested to see what she would do with it because she's fantastic. And it's exactly like you
Yeah,
said.
she plays unhinged really well.
Extremely well. But she just plays everything in general very well. She's always in this.
Have,
She gives credence to what she's doing. She gives credence to a movie
yeah.
because she plays it so straight and so well.
Have you ever seen that Gerald's Game, that Stephen King adaptation?
I have not, but I just from the stills, I'm like, that's fucking deep and disturbing.
She is great in that movie. She's amazing.
And we meet Janet. We should probably speed up, but we meet Janet, and she's just a bitch from the get go. She's a see you next Tuesday if there was
Yeah.
ever a see you next Tuesday. So she's in another scene of great show, don't tell. She is just berating Lisa. How she's not good enough, how, like she's holding little things against her because she lives in this bright bubblegum pink world and she's a empathic person and she's so caring and so loving, but yet she's absolutely awful to Lisa, holding little things against her from like a year ago. Like accidentally dropping a plate is all of a sudden like
Yeah.
a huge thing. And then you have Dale,
She's someone
Lisa's
who
father.
she holds grudges over small things.
Extremely small things. Extremely petty, extremely Midwestern mom petty. That is
Oh yeah.
that's fucking Midwestern mom petty right there. In the
Yeah.
Midwest, you either have very petty, passive aggressive mothers, or you have moms that are just like throw you to the wolves and they're like, figure it out.
Yeah.
There's love in both of those models. I'm not saying they're just horrible people either way, but that's kind of what you get. You either get very passive aggressive helicopter on top of you moms, or you get very much laissez faire. It's their life, figure it out,
Yeah.
moms. We clearly had the latter. Like that's what we had growing up. But we grew up around a lot of people that had that passive aggressive helicopter mom that
Yeah.
Janet is. and and frankly, I feel like our mother did us very well, but because she just allowed us to just do the fucking things that we want to do, be who we are. Um, but you're seeing in the show and now tell, she's just berating Lisa, all the while she's telling Dale, her father, to get involved, and he's just the most uninvolved, disinterested 80s, not paying attention dad ever.
Yeah.
And it's such a good balance of where you see like because you see it in real life how many men are in a relationship with an overbearing woman and they just go through life blazed. Huh.
Yes.
Yeah, I think your mother's right, kiddo. And you're just like, do you have another thought? Do you have an opinion on this? Or are you just gonna go with her because you don't care?
That guy definitely has a monopoly on playing 80s dads as
Oh
well.
God! And it's the dad from Stranger Things. I want to know what that actor's name is. I
Yep.
forgot to look it up, but he just plays disinterested '80s dad so well.
Yeah.
That was a one for one casting. That's typecasting right there. That works. Where someone
Yeah.
watched Stranger Things and just went, him, get him.
Yeah. I don't
He
mind
can
when
do this.
I don't mind when I don't mind when character actors get typecast because they fit.
They fit. Plus, it gets them more work. It gets them more exposure, and that's good for them. Same deal. Isn't there? There's a British actress who's played a stepsister to Cinderella in 4 different movies because she just plays the part so well. I don't know her name, but it's like that's her career essentially. Is she plays bitchy stepsisters in period pieces, but specifically she's played Cinderella's stepsister like 4 different times because it just
Yeah.
works.
The guy's name is Joe Crest or Crest. So quick shout out to him. He's great.
He's great. And the movie's just going, and you see Lisa going through. You find out Lisa has selective mutism, where she doesn't speak to people very often, and it's just a very interesting. And um, it it immediately puts you in to a sympathetic place with Lisa. Because after this, right after she's chastised and she's told you're gonna replace the mirror and you're gonna pay for it, she's like, I'll pick up an extra shift. You meet her in a so Tim Burton-esque scene. This scene straight up Tim Burton, where she goes to her job. It's at a it's a sewing shop. She's got the glasses on. She's doing the little material work, the very delicate work. Michael Trent shows up to get his jacket dry cleaned and lies about whether it's wine or not. He's like, no, Hawaiian punch. And the shop owner is just fucking throwing shade at Lisa non-stop. He's like, I can always count on... I didn't know Lisa had any friends. He's like,
Yeah.
who are you? He's like, oh, I'm Lisa's friend. He's like, I didn't know Lisa had any friends. And then immediately, I can always count on her to pick up an extra shift on a Saturday or Sunday because she's never going to go on a date. And then immediately goes even harder with an 80s style comment that you shouldn't have been able to, but people did get away with in the 80s that you could never fucking say today as a boss. Maybe it's because she's so flat-chested. And she's just taking bullet after bullet from this guy. But he's trying to all say this as like what a great person Lisa is. I love Lisa, even though she's incredibly flawed and I don't think highly of her. But I think highly of her in this comment.
That's another part where I wish the style was a little stronger. Because, like, think of what Tim Burton probably would have done in the 80s with that setup.
Yes.
Like her with the giant glasses on. Like, you could have had some real fun.
The scene would have been like this. And then all of a sudden,
you could have had a lot of fun with it. But instead, it's just kind of got,
you can see the pieces of where it could have gone. But it's a very interesting sequence. You get to meet, what the fuck is her name again? It's the girl who drugs her from the start. She sucks.
I just referenced her as the bitch.
Yeah, Tamara apparently is her name. We then go back to the house. Lisa, they completely forget about Lisa for dinner, but they say they're gonna go to a movie. Who's talking now? Lisa says she's gonna skip. She opens a pizza box. She's clearly a vegetarian. And all the meat from this one meat lover's pizza has all been pushed onto the one single piece that's left. And they bought it solely because Janet had a coupon for a free orange crush if they got this pizza. And I was like, if that doesn't scream Midwestern mom on a budget, I don't fucking know what does. Like,
it
just screams it.
Coupons are the most Midwestern thing, I think.
It's so Midwest. And it's a very 80s mom on a budget. So they don't care about Lisa whatever. They don't even factor her into dinner. She says, "Oh, I'm going to stay home. I don't want to go." She gets chastised for that, but eventually they relent. She stays home. And it's also insinuated very much by Janet that Taffy is a slut, but she's not aware she's a slut, but Taffy is 1,000% insinuated to be a slut. And that we're like, she just achieved this splits by doing that for hours. All the work you do against the wall, making all those noises, screaming so much with your legs spread apart, and you're like, Jesus Christ! Could you call your daughter a slut? Oh, it's there's multiple comments where we forgot another one where right before Lisa gets chastised by Janet, she gets woken up by Taffy. Taffy's trying to give her the heads up and say, hey, you should probably go downstairs and get up. My mom's really pissed about the mirror. She sees bruises on Lisa's knees because of her falling to throw up and her falling in and her like kind of stumbling into the graveyard. And there's bruises on her knees. She's like, oh, I fell. And Taffy's like, yeah, sure, babe. Just like I did. And you're like, oh, we're just straight up insinuating that you're a slut and you're proud of it. Nothing wrong with that. Good for you. Own that shit.
Own it.
But then to get the next sequence with Janet straight up just constantly saying so many things that you're like, I don't know about that one. You're like, that feels pretty insinuation stuff. Oh, she's just straight up blinding herself to my daughter's perfect, but everything she is saying is really saying, "Oh, my daughter's a slut." Like it's fucking
Uh,
hysterical
yeah.
because it's all innuendo based, and it really, really works well. So Lisa stays home, and then while she's home, she's watching Return of the Dead. Great movie, by the way, 1985. Love it. Or Return of the Living Dead. My apologies. And then that's when the Cole Sprouse zombie Frankenstein character breaks into the house. We have a nice little chase sequence that's absurd.
Yeah, he's much more. Well, I guess he becomes more like Frankenstein, but he starts off more of a zombie.
Very much zombie esque.
Yeah.
Um, and he's fresh out the ground, which I love the detailing there. And we have a ridiculous chase sequence, which includes them both getting stuck in the sprinkler system of the lawn, which is just fun. They get back
Yeah.
inside the house. She picks up a golf club. She tries to call 911, and he's just sitting on the floor playing with the phone. And it's a shoe phone from Sports Illustrated. And this is where the brilliance of that writing comes in. She just kind of accepts it and sees that he's damaged and not trying to hurt her. And the little things. Oh, it's my dad's shoe phone. He got it because of his subscription to Sports Illustrated. And then they insinuate the cure because he holds up his hand that's cut off. And she's like, "Oh, not that cure. Like, it can't heal you. Well, it can, but emotionally." And it's just
Yeah.
so. The dialogue is so well done. That's what I
And
love about
I
this
like
film.
the moment with the neighbors in the yard. That's pretty funny.
Oh yeah, it's like Taffy. No, Taffy. She's so sweet. She's perfect. She could never do something like that. The other one, they don't even know her name. It's just
Yeah.
she's an odd duck. Who knows what she's doing.
The only thing that stressed me out about that is my immediate thought was, why aren't you putting this guy in the shower? Get him at least not covered in dirt.
So she pulls him up to her room. They figure out what happened. He immediately insinuates that he's in love with her. And she's like, "No, I didn't want to be with you. Isn't romantically. I wanted to be with you in the ground because people suck. Because sometimes life sucks and people are jerk offs." Direct quote. Which immediately I'm like, that's a teen. I fucking love that shit. Figures out when he cries, he stinks because it's necrotic fucking shit in his eyes coming out. Then she throws him in the shower. But even the other details, like the little things of him discovering modern life and her having to play around with it. And there's always this like sexual innuendo, even in weird ways, where it's like he finds a douchebag and she's like, "Nope, not for that. That's a douchebag." Um, but they have a little like in shower radio, and she's like, "This is the music for beer sluts." And she changed it to naturally the college radio station. She's like, "But this is for people like us with feelings." And then she showers this
Yeah.
fucking zombie guy. It's fucking ridiculous, but it's such good character moments throughout that I eat them up because they're just so much fun. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. And then you have the Pretty Woman esque uh, montage of changing clothes.
Yes. Which
And
again,
then
very fun nod.
my problem was it was when she all of a sudden became super confident. Because I'm like, that nothing really played out to make you feel that way.
So she, we should go here first. She feels clearly responsible for him in some way, shape, or form once she figures out what has happened. And she just accepts it. Because her life has been fucked. So if another fucked things happen in her life, she just kind of rolls with it. Which is great. She gets brought downstairs and chastised again by Janet. Because plates got broken, naturally. And it's insinuated that Lisa's crazy and she needs help. And she needs to go to the psychiatric facility that Janet works at. we get back upstairs and we get this whole Pretty Woman sequence. We get all this kind of stuff. But I just adore that those moments where you see Lisa, they insinuate right away. She's like, I don't think I've talked this much in forever. Because she immediately feels comfort. And it's a great way to show, again, show, not tell. You think they're telling you, oh, she just wants to talk now. But really, because she feels as though there's a kindred spirit with her, there's a kindred soul, she feels comfortable enough to be herself again. And there's someone that she can be herself around, which is really smart. And then you go to the dress up sequence the next day when she has to go to school, and he helps dress her, very much the same style. And she's like, no, I don't want to wear that. And she wears not a skimpy dress, but she wears what she calls a pirate slut dress, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's like a gothic
a
style.
very hot topic, hot goth girl style dress. That's the best way to
Yeah.
put it. And she's wearing the whole long boots, and she's wearing the big 80s hat, straight out of fucking Beetlejuice, by the way. And
Yeah.
she goes to school. But what I love about it is you said it's unearned confidence in a weird way. I think I don't read she's confident. I read she's trying to pretend she's confident and she's learning how to do it. I read that as acting because it's so performative. It's so like when she does the hair flip, it's not like I flip my hair and I'm the pretty girl that takes off her glasses. It's the like very
I don't
80s
know.
teen bullshit. Flip my hair, whip my jacket around very much. It's like I've been told and I've seen in movies this is what I'm supposed to do. But she still very
I
much
would agree with you.
moves in a weird way, does weird things, and it's just fun.
I would agree with you, but it's not shot that way. Because you have like slow motion shots of her walking towards camera, looking confident. Like it's not reflected in the style of the shots.
I think that's where the cinematography, I think, does it a slight disservice, and it allows you to interpret versus allowing you to see it as it's supposed to be. I think, obviously, everyone believes their interpretation is correct. That's how I read it, is she's trying to be confident, but she isn't confident yet, right?
But from
But
that
the
moment
shot,
on,
right.
she is confident.
I think it's slowly descent, but it's quick. But there is a descent into madness.
And I have no problem with her all of a sudden becoming confident, but show a reason why it's happening.
Fair. I think it's solely because she has someone to be with and spend
Yeah,
time.
like I have no problem with her all of a sudden becoming confident. That's okay. Because you could say like, oh, now that she has someone to confide in, she's more confident about who she is.
Yeah,
But they don't really set that up, so it's
maybe
just a little disjointed.
a little disjointed, but overall it's still cohesive. But yes, I can see that perspective.
Yeah, and it's a good moving the character in a good way.
Yes, we go back to the house where we get jazzercise Suzanne Summers-esque workout outfit on Janet, who she gets distracted. Frankenstein comes down, puts a worm drops out of his mouth into her little like bullshit healthy dish dessert.
Yeah, I think it's like looks like cottage cheese.
Cottage cheese and like peaches or something. And
Yeah.
and then he goes back
Yeah.
up. The whole time she's reading the empathic person uh, against emotional vampires. The emotional vampire, the narcissist, will always attack the empathic person. Very much insinuating the delusion of these people that would listen
But
to
you know what's really sad is a lot of people still believe in that kind of shit.
I know, but you see it a lot
Like
in those people.
energy vampires and all that.
Like you see so much of that still, which is why it hits home. And she she's insulted by a door-to-door salesman. That's how she gets distracted. Are you insinuating my house is not clean? And like she's just harassing somebody. So again, a moment where you don't even see it and you know she's just treating someone like shit.
Oh, I have a funny story, a personal story
All right.
about a vacuum cleaner salesman.
Oh, I can't wait for
Um,
that. I can't wait for this one.
it was like 2 months after we moved up to Park Falls, so
Yeah.
like 7 years ago, I think it was. This vacuum cleaner guy came over and he was like, "Oh, can I show you a quick demonstration?" And because I'm just a people pleaser, I was like, "Sure, I guess." And then he came in, and then he started vacuuming like this much of the carpet, right?
Yeah.
And then he just stayed for like 2 hours of demonstrations. And because I'm such like I hate confrontation, I just didn't tell him to leave. And then the entire time, he was like, "Oh, is your girlfriend or wife home?" And I was like, "Oh, my girlfriend's out." But really, Mallory was just in the bathroom, like, because she didn't want to be involved in it. She was hiding, so she ended up hiding for like 2 hours. It was an awful experience.
all
It
because
was
you
awful.
all because you didn't have the strength to just say, "I'm sorry, I'm happy with my vacuum, thank you," though.
Yeah, no, because like, yeah, it's just I hate confrontation, so it's just like I just kept going with it. It was awful. It was a horrible experience.
The worst
Two
part is
hours of
that
my life I'll never get back.
very early Lisa, actually, but I just love that. Oh, that's you set the scene so well because I can see it because I've known you since the day you were born. Just the fucking like absurd. I didn't. I just don't want to say no, so I'm just like.
Yeah,
Because ironically, you have more of the reputation of not a chance. I never let this happen ever. No, no, no. But really, when you're confronted with something, you're like, I'm
yeah. My
okay.
the problem started when I said, "Okay, sure,"
Yeah,
the very first time,
yeah,
and then it just went from there.
yeah. So it's by the way tremendous. I would love that visual for the rest of my life. So we have Janet ends up eating a worm, and another great cinematography shot, in my opinion. I love. It's very basic, but the zombie Frankenstein is walking up the stairs, and he just walks into the camera with a satisfied grin on his face. But he just walks into the camera, and that's how we transition back to what we're doing. We get to see Lisa finally gets to talk to Michael Trent, but she's getting to play a little bit confidently. She's going about it. Taffy interrupts again, and then in perfect Taffy fashion, quotes Oscar the Grouch after being quoted Oscar Wilde, which is a perfect counter to somebody that's just like, I'm so self-important by quoting Oscar Wilde. I'm sorry, if you're quoting Oscar Wilde,
Can we talk about?
what the fuck?
Can we talk about that locker setup? It is so crazy.
Oh, this is the corridor of lockers instead of just like blind
Yeah,
hallways.
it looks like a locker room, like in a gym or something. But then it's just the high school lockers. I've never seen that before. It's so weird.
It's very interesting to say the least. So we get another moment of Michael Trent and Taffy interacting, and Lisa's finally like, "Stop embarrassing me around him. Like, please, 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 just fucking stop." She goes back home, and this is pretty much the end of Act One. I'm sorry that we're like an hour in and it's only Act One, but it's the whole turning point of the film is here. Janet is Lisa's talking to Frankenstein, and Janet comes home early, and she's in her classic nurse get up. She looks straight up Nurse Ratchet in this, and we get a really good. It's if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. There's a really nice Rocky Horror Picture Show nod with "Damn it, Janet," where like it's in the Like she hears Janet coming, she's like, "Damn it, Janet!" But it's if you know it, you're like, "I know that fucking audio," um, and it's just another subtle, really smart nod to the pictures that inspired this prior, and to set the tone of the weird level shit that we're getting. Janet comes in, she starts harassing her. She said, "I already spoke to somebody. You're going to a psych ward," and she just is attacking her left and right. And the cinematography between the two of them is very fun. I really like the play between the two of them. Just and a teen horrified the most by the socks that she'll have to wear in the psych ward is really fun. But all the while, Janet's back is to the closet that Frankenstein is hiding in. And then it slowly opens, and he just hits her over the fucking head with a sewing machine and kills Janet.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
It's tremendous. Lisa's horrified, but he like comforts her, and instead of being like really freaked out, like you just killed somebody, she's like, she's kind of hyperventilating a little bit, but she's like, and then you see Frankenstein, he cuts off Janet's ear because he's missing an ear. And you're like, what the fuck is he doing? So he cuts off her ear with like sewing scissors, which is hilarious. He like holds it up to Lisa. He's like, do it, do it, do it. And she's like, no, I can't. No, I can't. And then it's the madness turn, which I loved that. Really, when you look at it, it's the heel turn. It's where she becomes crazy, and I fucking adore it.
Yeah. And that's where it becomes like full-on Heathers.
Full-on Heathers, full-on zany shit. Where this was the moment that unlocks the dark, twisted Lisa that has always been in there. Where she can truly just be pure, 100% unadulterated Lisa. Where she's still kind of uncomfortable, but she's starting to feel herself. This is the moment where she's like, no, I'm Lisa and I'm fucking hot shit. He cuts off her ear. She's still like, and then he insinuates, holds it up, say, sew this on me. Give me my ear back. She's like, no, I can't. Not till we bury the body. Like, super quick turn out of nowhere, and it immediately sets up the madness of that character that I utterly adore.
And I wish there was actually more of that kind of thing. When she says not before we bury the body, like that over the top kind of style. I wish there was more of that.
Because the zaniness allows for it. If you want to, what's hilarious is this is such a weird, zany, unique to itself film. It's one of the few films I've ever seen that you wish it would go further. Sometimes you wish it could. If I were going to point out flaws, I would agree with you on that. This is one where I'm like, no, go further. You can do it. We believe in you. Go do it.
Yeah, and it would fit with the characters. Yeah.
Very much so. So, how did you feel about that death scene in general? That was just so much ridiculous fun.
The moms?
Yeah.
I really liked the build up to it, like her pretty much just saying she's gonna lock her up in a mental institution for the rest of her life just because she doesn't like her. So I like that build up, and then hitting her on the head with the sewing machine is good. I like that.
And it's just like drop. And I adore that. It's very sudden. It's very quick. You're not expecting.
And then immediately you get the payoff to the tanning bed right after it.
Yeah.
So it's good writing.
Well, and that's the biggest thing. So we're going to take a quick ad break here, but we'll be right back with some more Lisa Frankenstein, if you will. Here we are, friends. I got to ask you guys a nice little question here. If you could, go check out our Etsy shop. Go to ptcreative.etsy.com. This is a great place for you to support us if you really like this podcast. It helps us a lot. I myself do all the designs over at Etsy. So if you ever want to go check out some of those items, head over to ptecreative.etsy.com. We've got stuff that goes with all the big things that we do over at the show. We're going to have some more movie merchandise soon. But we got Pokemon stuff. We got football stuff. We got national park stuff. We got all kinds of cool stickers, hoodies, hats, t-shirts, all kinds of great merch. go check out ptecreative.etsy.com and go get yourself some cool merch to support us and the channel even more. However, we back to it, friends. We now have the end of Act 1 is over. We've spent an hour and 20 minutes on Act 1, so we gotta move. But we were enjoying it, so I don't really care.
My notes become more sporadic, don't worry.
It's very fair. I think you just will hit more high points. Important detail in that exchange between Lisa and Janet. Janet says, I canceled my trip to Milwaukee last minute because she was going to go to a conference in Milwaukee, which, great city, by the way. City of my birth. I consider it my hometown. Love it. So, shout out to Milwaukee. Love you very much. But that's an important detail to remember as you go forward. Lisa sews the ear back onto Frankenstein, and nothing happens, which is logical.
Yeah.
That you can't just sew body parts to somebody and think they're going to work. You have to do something to do it, especially parts to a dead man that's been revived through a green lightning bolt. So he takes a Sharpie and draws a lightning bolt on her hand, and then she gets it. She's like, oh, I think I figured it out. Sends him to the tanning bed, does it, and they have a really nice exchange of shouting in his ears like, does it work? Oh my god, it works! It works! And he's like freaking out because it's so loud. But it's very fun to...
That's another moment where I wish there was a more out and out homage to Frankenstein, the 1932 one. Like, you could have done so much with that tanning bed part of it.
Well, they keep going back to it, but they don't get there in the first act except this, which I appreciate.
Yeah, like, because she's essentially Frankenstein, like the Doctor Frankenstein. Yeah. I wish there was just a more out and out reference.
Well, I think there's a really good subtle ones when you're paying attention. Where when he first sits up after getting his ear sewn, he gets a little bit more color back into his face. He looks less dead. He sits up like Frankenstein with the Undertaker style sit up, but he hits his head on the tanning bed, so you still hit the comedy. And then her glee is like the Doctor, where she starts freaking out. She gets even louder because even though the monster is freaking out, she's losing her mind because she's like, I fucking did it. I figured it out. I brought this motherfucker back to life. Like, I have done it. So there is those subtle nods, but yes, I think they could still use a little bit more if they wanted to play with that even more.
Yeah, and that's not like, it's not necessary. It's just a personal choice I would have liked to see.
It's a personal choice, right. We now see that Lisa's completely fine with using this newfound power that she has. Remember, our friend is missing a hand. So she goes to school, she writes a note, puts it in a locker. You're insinuated to think she's putting a note in Michael Trent's locker. She's going to finally go get that date that she's always wanted with Michael Trent. But no, now she's in a very skimpy, not skimpy, that's not fair, but very much tight-fitting, polka dot dress skirt combo, still Hot Topic heavy, but we're trying to make sure we know Catherine Newton is hot. That's the way this movie is being shot. Her clothes very much reflect her change very well, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
And now she's just like mad scientist all the way. She's waiting at the side of a lake on the park bench. And you're like, oh, Michael must be meeting her. No, it's Doug, the creepy incel kid that sexually assaulted her. She leads him through the forest, making him believe that she loved what he did at the party.
Yeah.
He's very nerdy along the way, very much not innocent in any way, but very much just being like, well, I don't know if I can do as much as last time. You know, the beer really lowers my inhibitions, and I'm a lot more fun that way, or more confident that way. as if trying to sort of apologize, but not in a weird way. It's a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
And
I
she's
wrote
just,
down he looks both 16 and 42.
yeah, very much so.
He and he really he looked like someone. I was trying to figure it out, and then I finally did. He looks like, remember Steve from Blue's Clues, the original guy?
Yes.
That's who he looks like.
Yeah, he does. That is a very astute observation. How that you say that? It was straight up Blue's Clues looking motherfucker. Yeah, especially in the outfit that they have him in, it's straight up Steve from Blue's Clues,
Yeah.
which is absurd. But he's like, "Oh, don't you want to hold my hand?" And she's like, "Oh, I will. I'll hold your hand." Gets all the way to the cemetery, and she's very slinking, sleuthy, trying to be seductive walk. And there's always a little awkwardness to it, but it works because it very much is. I'm a teen coming into my own and my own sexual awakening, but I'm not quite there yet. So I love the way I just something I want to touch on in general is when she walks, when she moves, there is always something different about it. It is not a normal person moving. There's always just something very over the top or dramatic or awkward about it that makes it feel like this character is real. That I really appreciate. But she leads him to the cemetery, and out of nowhere, she's like, "Oh, can you do what you did at the party?" He's like getting into the idea, and then he gets dragged down by the monster because he's hiding in the hole of his grave. He gets pulled down onto the ground. He's like on his knees. Lisa fucking knees him in the face. Brutal. Great form, by the way. Lays him out. She jumps on his arm, jumps on his hand, and the monster fucking cuts off his hand. And I love the next one was just the brilliance of this film, in my opinion. Holds the hand up in the sky. Ha! I told you I'd hold your stupid hand. And she looks, and even the monster's like, "Really?" She's like, "What? I thought it'd be something cool to
Yeah, I
say."
like that moment.
I adore that
And
moment.
that whole scene is like that whole scene is almost like a carbon copy of the scene in Heathers where she leads the person out into the woods
Yeah,
and then proceeds to kill them.
yeah. But it's all done with this very weird, edgy comedic edge, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So she's got a kid's hand in her hand that's now been severed from his arm. The kid tries to get up and start running away, and Frankenstein is like, apparently great with a fucking axe, and just chucks an axe into his back and kills him. And then they just dump him into the hole and leave. Like nobody's
Yeah.
business. And then she starts sewing, and she's got the glasses on, and she's looking very much like a seamstress out of a Tim Burton film again. Sewing the hand back on. He's like, this one's going to be tricky. But I love it, and I adore that moment. And they go into the tanning bed, revive his hand. He can use it again. He's so happy that they start dancing a little bit, and then he pulls her into her living room at the original place where they first had a conversation. And he's like, I want to play a piano for you. That's what he insinuates. Which I adore. And again, it's that moment of a teenager like, oh, you're a musician. All right, cool. Like, there's a weird level of attraction there that I enjoy.
The I think the Barbie movie has forever tainted the thought of like playing an instrument for someone because the in that movie there's the scene where Ken says to Barbie, "I'll play the guitar at you" instead of "I'll play the guitar for you."
Yeah.
Like now it just comes across as so douchey. So it's like that movie's tainted those scenes for me.
Oh, a little bit. But what I like about this is it's the relation of that's where his character growth really starts going. Is it stops being him severing someone's hand doesn't feel like selfish gain to get his hand back anymore. It's to do something that he loves to show the person that he loves what he can do. And he wants to be able to share it with her. But I love how he plays the music and then he sees sheet music up there. And of all the fucking sheet music in the world, it's Can't Fight This Feeling Any Longer or Anymore from REO Speedwagon, which you have a great REO Speedwagon story in your backstory of life, which is tremendous, by the way, if you ever want to share that.
Oh, are you talking about the Burger King one?
Yes!
Well, well, to this day, I don't understand it. That's the thing. Because it was you, me, and Dad went to Burger King. We walked there, and then when we walked in, some random guy who I didn't know, and he was like, I don't know if he was mentally challenged or if he was just a strange, weird loner guy, but he just pulls out an REO Speedwagon CD and gives it to me and tells me how much he enjoys it. And I was like, okay. And then, yeah, he just handed me the CD out of nowhere for no reason, unprompted.
This all happened
It's
while
so
this.
weird.
I think I went, I ate, I ordered with you guys, but then I think I walked home by myself or something like that, and I missed this whole interaction. But the story afterward was tremendous. Hey, REO
Yeah, and
Speedwagon brings
I
people
was
together.
I think I was like 16 years old, which makes it even weirder.
Yeah.
I don't understand that story still.
It's so stupid and so fun. Hey, REO Speedwagon brings people together, man. You are forever bonded with that strange man in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, due to him
Yeah.
giving you the. Do you still have that CD?
No.
Darn. Should have kept that
I think it
forever.
was like an REO. I'm pretty sure it was an REO Speedwagon like greatest hits CD.
Underrated band, I will say. But I
Yeah.
so there's sheet music to "Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore" by REO Speedwagon, and she said, "Oh, that's Dad's. Don't play it." Or he's never played it since Mom died. And then she kind of thinks about it, and this is where I love it. It's those little subtle moments. She thinks about it for a second. She's like, "But you could play it." So allowing something very personal and private to her to allow him to do it. To show that there's still, even when she's like, "You're not my boyfriend, you're just my friend. And you're my confidant, and I love you, but I don't love you that way." There's still those moments to insinuate she has feelings. And
And I think the whole reason that scene works is because it's connected back to something she feels. Like she feels a connection to her mom with that song. Like if it was just him playing a song randomly, it wouldn't be near. It'd be a lot more douchey than it actually is heartfelt.
what I love about it is it's still 80s cheese-tastic. It's so.
Yeah,
And I think the smartest thing about this scene, you're right in the connection to family. That's really smart. Is the fact that Catherine Newton just sings it. There is no like over the top, wow, she has a great voice. Catherine Newton doesn't have a good voice in this. It's not the worst voice
yeah,
you've
I
ever
enjoyed
heard,
that.
but it's just a normal person cheesing out over a song that they love. And I adore that because it feels so real. It feels in the moment. Where, for instance, Ab loves Backstreet Boys. When we play Everybody in the car together, I do a line, she does a line. And we both know we suck at singing. We both know our voices are terrible. But in that moment, you're not worried about that. You're worried about the connection you're having and the happiness you're feeling with somebody else. You're not worrying about, oh, my voice doesn't sound that good or whatever. You're just enjoying the moment with your person. And I love the fact that they didn't try to doctor it up and make it sound better and make it sound like, oh, wow, she can really sing. It was like, just. And at first it starts a little awkward, but then she just gets into it and flows with it. And it's still not a great voice, but it just allows the moment to be the moment. And what could look very douchey instead feels incredibly personal and connective. I adore that scene because of that. Then he starts crying. They call back to the tears smelling like trash. So she covers her face. Or she covers his face, then comes back and she's like, "Don't cry. Now you got your hand would have been used for God knows what sexual assault by Doug. But now it's a conduit to the artistry of REO Speedwagon." So again, it's like that awesome cheese-tastic, self-indulging 80s kid thinking they know everything, plus logic and reasoning to justify their actions. Because no villain believes they're the villain. They believe they're the hero. And that's what I love about this, is it's justifying all these things. And that's not really why he's crying, but that's how she interprets his tears, because
Yeah, he doesn't talk the whole movie, which I liked.
yeah, it was very smart.
Because then I didn't have to think about Cole Sprouse as much.
But it's those scenes that really do justice to the film, because it's character building all the time, and I adore it. You can say a lot about Diablo Cody's writing. You cannot say she can't write a character that grows.
Yeah, and she's really good at writing like wallflowers.
Absolutely. That have a big personality, they just don't know how to let it out.
Yeah.
And I really adore that writing. As someone who connects with that a lot, yeah, I adore stuff with that, and I connect with those style of characters. But the movie continues. You see Taffy and Dale in two different states freaking out over mental states, I should say, of freaking out over mom being missing. Taffy's like just distraught.
Mm-hmm.
She calls, quote, all the Ramadas in Milwaukee, as if there's like 50 Ramadas in Milwaukee, which is not true. But there's maybe 5. Milwaukee's a pretty sprawling city. It's a sprawling city when people don't realize, but because it just keeps going on and on and on. However, there's not like 50 Ramadas. Is it Ramadas or Radissons? I can't remember, but
well, Radisson is the thing that started me on my. I had to steal something from every hotel I go to because I stole a swimming towel from Radisson, and that's where it all started.
They've made a selective kleptomaniac out of you ever since.
Yep.
But Taffy's like freaking out. They even call the police. What I love about this is the dichotomy going on. As a scene cuts away to Taffy freaking out, it cuts back to Lisa, and she's having a grand old time talking to the Frankenstein monster. Another great is, in the shittiest way possible, well, you don't have to, in a great way, you don't have to worry about that anymore because your mom's already dead, Lisa. It's like, it's such a shitty thing to say, but it gets the point across that you're like, well, you don't have to worry anymore. Your parents are already dead. Mine's not. And Lisa falsely calms her down, which I love.
When Taffy calls the cops, what the hell did the cop ask her for her answer to be, yeah, she's a bitch?
Okay, so
what could possibly be the question?
So this is a really fun character exchange. You're getting two different characters, and you're seeing, what I love is the dichotomy is, as Lisa's coming into her own with confidence, Taffy's losing her confidence. She's losing her mojo. She's losing her sense of self a lot, which is really smart. And Lisa's upstairs. They teased a vibrator in a former scene as, it's for your back, which I thought was hilarious. It was given to her by her aunt because hopefully it could help her in her times of need, which I loved.
Yeah.
And so they have a conversation with Taffy where she says, you don't have to worry, your mom's already dead. Then we cut back. She's calling the police. Then we cut back to Lisa and Frank. He's rubbing her back with the vibrator, and then she starts going, You could use that other places. And again, the awkwardness is there, the authenticity is there. That playful youth not understanding how to initiate sex very well or initiate, you know, intimacy in some way, shape, or form is so accurate. It's so fucking accurate, and I love.
It's accurate, but I always find it awkward when there's like semi-erotic scenes and the characters are supposed to be high schoolers. It's always like I don't really want to see all
It,
this.
it, it, I think what's really smart is they tease it, they don't show it. They tease
Yeah,
it, but they
like,
don't show it.
and that's the thing is it's real to life. It is, but it's one of those things that like when you think about it, it's like
Eh. It's the same thing I love about. You look at like Breakfast Club when Claire finds John like locked up in the closet. She comes in, they start kissing, and it's clearly insinuated something else has happened. With
yeah.
the idea that Claire has given up her virginity. But it doesn't expressly say that, and it's not expressly
Mm-hmm.
shown. You just have to insinuate that. And with all the ties, myself as a viewer, I would go, oh, Claire is allowing herself to be a part of a different part of society now. She's lost her virginity to John.
They
Here,
definitely don't go too far or anything in this movie.
yeah, what I love is the teasing of it, and the awkwardness is there. But then
Yeah,
it's cutting back and forth where she's having this confident sexual awakening at the same time her sister is like dying on the inside and she's calling a cop. The reason she gets to that line that you said before is she's giving a police report and she's kind of going over the top with her descriptions. And the kind
yeah,
of silky brown hair with a shimmering, like that you'd see like on a freshly shampooed dog and the beautiful sunlight, and she just keeps going on and on. You're like, what the hell? Dale takes over and he's just like, yeah, she's just a really kind person. And one of the worst police reports ever. She takes the phone back. As this is happening, you barely hear it, but you can hear Lisa having an extreme scream as if she's getting sexual pleasure or an orgasm of some kind. But you don't see it,
yeah.
so you know it's safe.
That and that's a clever way to do it.
And they both kind of like go. But they're distracted by the police reports, so they're just like, whatever, we'll take care of that. And then Taffy takes back the phone and finishes, and she always has this pendant and this necklace and Elizabeth Taylor white by perfume, and it's insinuated on the phone that the cop in Milwaukee goes, so she's a bitch, and she's like, yeah, like a bitch, yeah, she's a bitch, and like
Yeah,
it's a
that's her answer. Is yeah, she's a bitch.
like it's perfect. It's
But I was just
fucking
like, what would
perfect.
the cop have asked there?
And I love the fact that from that he's able to say, "Oh wow, she's one of those aerobics bitches." Got it. Click.
Yeah,
Like, and I love
maybe
it.
that is it.
And I adore that. And it's just so much fun to be able to write and see that. But you're seeing these awakening moments coming through, and then you're seeing Lisa. She's borrowing Taffy's clothes, and she's trying to be more confident, where Taffy is losing her sense of style. She's losing sleep. She's not herself anymore. Which leads them to where Lisa feels like she's going to get caught. But right beforehand, after her moment with Frank and the vibrator, Taffy's given this heartfelt police report. She goes, who knows how long we have? I should just give myself to somebody, that I truly love. Like Michael Trent. Not seeing the person she really loves is right next to her.
And
Hurts his feelings.
I think that's the problem with the movie for me is the structure of the love story, like the B plot, I guess you would say. That doesn't work for me. Like she realizes way too late who she actually loves. Like the Michael Trent thing should have probably been dropped for me at least, like towards the midpoint rather than towards the end of the second act. It just, yeah, it didn't work for me, but it is funny that the misdirect there.
Well, I like it because again, it's a nod to classic '80s shit. I love never seeing the person next to you that you actually should be with. And it's hilarious because when you say that, so many stories in life, the person you quote unquote should be with is not who you actually end up with. You end up with the
Yeah,
person you pursue because there's a reason you were pursuing them. You know, very rare. There's a reason that the term friend zone, whether it's actually accurate or not, exists. Because so many people believe in the idea that
true.
once somebody has been put into that category for in someone's brain, you can't get out of it. And
But
it's
then
interesting to
I would
see.
argue that the relationship between the Frankenstein and Lisa goes too far for it to be just friend zone.
Well,
You
exactly,
know?
and that's why I like it, is because it's showing Lisa to still be really flawed in multiple ways. Where, in a way, you can already start seeing that is Lisa's taking her comfort too far. She's taking her newfound confidence too far, in which she just straight up is using the monster for her own gains.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote down Lisa is evil and she lacks basic human empathy.
Kind of, and that's what I really like about it. Is it's not
Yeah, at one point, yeah, she just lying to her sister and her dad about the mom, which I'm totally fine with. I mean, I don't blame her there.
yeah,
Um, but then, like, there's a lot of times when she just like seems to lack empathy for anyone else,
and so
which
it becomes
it fits with the journey of the character. So I don't hate it or anything.
right. And what I love is the fact that she has been so disregarded for so long that she herself has forgotten how to regard others. That's
Yeah,
what I really
that's
like.
a good way of putting it.
Because then when it happens, she's too blind to see it. She's just like, "Well, I've been ostracized my entire life. So why wouldn't I just take advantage of all the things to make my life great?" Not realizing, hey, you're using people and abusing people. You're hurting people along the way. And I really appreciate that because then it shows later character growth. So we go back to school. She's got this whole plan. She's going to go after Michael Trent. She's calling the principal's office. Tamara is sitting there and saying, insinuates she's killed Doug. It's a ridiculous exchange, which I love. And again, it's very much '80s teen who thinks they know what the fuck they're doing. Like, if you need to say anything more to me, you can talk to my lawyer. And like flips her hair, takes Tamara down with her, and says, "I think you should look for drugs." She's like, "Are you out of your mind? You're out of your rocker?" And they're just catty fighting. And I just love the cop at the end. Really hope this golf phase ends soon. Like, which I adore because
Yeah,
it's such an '80s adult thing to say. God, I hope this phase ends soon. So Lisa, feeling the cops are onto her, knows she's probably killed people, goes out, and she's just like, "I'm gonna go to Michael Trent's house. I'm going. I'm gonna give myself to him, and I'm gonna have my moment." Meanwhile, Frank goes to pick up Janet's car that they abandoned somewhere to make it seem as though Janet is still alive. Ends up killing another person who's just chastising him and a kid, which is hilarious. That he's just fuck you. Fuck you. I'm dead. I'm done with you. And the kid's like smiling and clapping and happy that his grandfather, I think, just like is murdered, and
seemed like it.
he's just like good, yay. Lisa gets picked up by Frank by pure happenstance. She's just yelling at him, chastising him the whole time. She's like, you act like you're happy for me, but you're not really happy for me. We're going to talk about this. And it's so what you were saying. It's self indulgent. It's very much, she does not understand what she is doing is
She
hurting others.
she turned into a full blown sociopath, pretty much.
A little bit, yeah. And by a little bit, I mean yes, 1,000%. She's drunk. She's drunk on this newfound power and confidence that she has.
Yeah, and she turns into a really manipulative person.
Exactly, and it's a way in which you're rooting for her to see the light. You're not rooting for her to win anymore, which I really love that. I love that because you still have the tangibility of why did I like this character in the first place? It's still there, and I love it, but I don't want her to win. I want her to see the light. That's how she's really going to win again. That's what I really appreciate about the writing. So she gets to Michael Trent's house. She's so bold. She just walks in. That was my favorite thing from when I walked in with Ab, or when I watched it with Ab. She's like, "Oh, bold." She's just walking in. She's like, my wife is an extremely confident person who has no problem sharing forward details of herself. And she just goes, I never even did that shit. I was just like, fair.
Yeah, that's confidence I'll never know.
And she goes through. She just walks into Michael's house, walks up to his theoretical bedroom, and inside, Taffy is with Michael Trent. And you hear this little exchange of like, oh no, this is why it works. Because you're you, and I'm just so dark and twisted and damaged. So even in that moment, you see why Taffy's attracted to Michael Trent. It's another twist that you didn't see coming, but you can see Taffy in this like weakened state goes for somebody who's not her type because he makes her feel more valued as a person than just a piece of meat, which is really interesting dichotomy. So you see there's good in Michael Trent in some way, shape, or form. So you get the classic bad kid with a good heart from the bad side of the tracks to also in that still the self-indulgent teenager going, but no, I'm so dark and damaged that like this is why it works. Where he still has to have that facade of the bad boy. And Lisa just like breaks it up and she's like, what the fuck? Why you couldn't let me have him? You couldn't. She's like, sisters share, huh? You always say sisters share. Well, you couldn't just let me have this. And they're both very logical and reasonable. They're like, I never meant to hurt you. And even Michael Trent's like, I don't like you like that. Like, that was never going to happen. Which I find hilarious. And then she just goes on a tirade like, oh, you're the only one that can be cool. You're the only one who like cool movies and cool music and cool stuff. Do you know how uncool that is to only be the one person that can do it? Which I really like that. That's very much, it's a really well done monologue about a societal problem without hitting you overhead with a societal problem. Where it's like, you get to have whatever you want. You can have whatever you want in life. But if someone shares that, you know, and theoretically you could easily say this is a feminist, you know, kind of rant or messaging, if you will. But it's really smart. That it's a jilted lover almost being like, I'm exactly what you've shown theoretically that you want. But you won't let me be it because I'm too alike to you. I really appreciate that moment.
Yeah, and he also says, I think probably the grossest and most like condescending thing you can ever say to someone in that situation by calling her kiddo.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. Very much belittling
brutal.
her, and it's belittling her. And it's what I love about it is it's subtext, surface level. He's not being rude. He's being as empathetic as he can. He's naked in bed with her sister, but he's just like, it was never gonna work out. Like I don't have feelings for you like that. He's just being honest. But when he slips that kiddo in there and those little moments of dialogue, you still in the back of your head go, fuck this guy. Like,
yeah,
there's still that pretentious douche that you want to see go. So it's really smart, intelligent writing that I absolutely adore. And the performances are hit out of the park. And Taffy's just like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And you could tell on her face, I didn't want to hurt you, but I need something too. And Frank comes in, turns up the volume to the absurd love song that they're hearing, which I adore, and then just goes with an axe and fucking chops off Michael Trent's dick. And it
Yep.
and it's very
Best
much
scene in the movie.
it's the cinematography is tremendous. You're seeing blood spatter, you're seeing all the facial reactions, very tight, close up, extreme. And you're seeing four different emotions where you see, Taffy is horrified. Michael Trent is in pain but in shock. You have regret and shock on Lisa's face, and then you have just pure determinate anger on Frankenstein's face, just being like taking it. And then you see through shadow the dick flying through the air into a trash can, which I find hilarious. And you're seeing little blood splatters on Taffy and Michael Trent. It's just really smart and really, really well done, and it's shot
Yeah.
beautifully in those moments.
And seeing someone's dick chopped off or shot is never going to be not entertaining. It's always funny. It's always going to be funny.
What I love is it's such a dramatic, heightened, emotional moment, and yet it's hilarious. And I really appreciate that. And then it immediately cuts to he hits Michael Trent again, kills Michael Trent, and then he's going for Taffy. And at first, you start going, what is he doing? Oh, he's punishing Michael Trent because he hurt Lisa. And then he's going for Taffy, so then he's feeling... So in that moment, you're like, is he just crazed, or is he so protective of Lisa that anybody who hurts Lisa has to go?
Mm-hmm.
Lisa stops him, gets him out. He goes and runs away in the car. She gets Taffy up. He runs and grabs the cock, by the way, and then runs away. Lisa, half forces Taffy to get out of there, as shown by her wearing Michael Trent's clothing, which is hilarious. Gets her in the car, tracks down Frankenstein. They have this really heartfelt moment in where Lisa's finally reflective and going, oh my god, I hurt this person. And it's a scene where Taffy's just freaking out and as far back to a car window as you can be, which you can see it. If you've been in a relationship and you know someone's breaking up, you've been in that scene before. And it's not a breakup between a couple, it's just a breakup between sisters. And what I love is Lisa finally have that moment, I hurt you. I'm sorry. You really did try. And you have that final confirmation that Taffy was never a bitch. She may have some bitchy language choices, but she always cared about Lisa and always wanted to do the right thing for her. And then in a nice sweet moment, she puts her mom's rosary on Taffy. And when she first does that to Frankenstein gravestone, it's because no one will ever be able to hurt you. You'll always be with me because of that. And then she does it to Taffy to show, I really do love and care about you. So it's a very interesting, fun dichotomy. And then she gets out and picks up an axe and she runs into the forest to find the cemetery. I just adore... It's quick, it's efficient, but yet it's very heartfelt and hits the moment well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's at least turns Lisa more into the likable character she was. Because without that scene, I would say she's almost full blown evil at that point. But it's clever because it turns the character back for your way of thinking of her.
It turns it back to right when she earned a little confidence. Right at
Yeah.
the height of liking her. And she's running through the forest. She's going to track down Frankenstein with the axe. She gets to him. She holds it up for 2 seconds and can't even do it, throws it down. Which I do really appreciate because a lot of people would say, she didn't even try. And I'm like, you knew it was going to happen. If the entire audience knows what's going to happen, don't insult them by trying to make them believe that it's going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. And then they're just like arm in arms, like, "Oh, you love me, you really love me," and it's the realization. And then it's, I want to have sex. I want to be able to have sex before I die. That's the whole goal in Lisa's mind. So there's still the crazed loon in there that wants to achieve her goals, but it's far more. I realized I love you, you love me, and the reason he chopped off Michael's dick is so that he could have one. Because apparently, when he was killed, they chopped his off.
Yeah.
And I just love that scene because, like, oh, and I still reaffirming where Lisa's like goes back to being that Lisa when Frankenstein first showed up, where before he shows her like, hey, you can sew this onto me and we can do this. She's like, well, that's okay. You don't need one of those to be a man. In fact, it's like the least important thing about a man. So it's very much, it's still subtly going, it's about the content of the character. It's not just about what you can do sexually. So it always plays with that, but it never fully goes into sex is the only thing that matters, which I really like. But then to get even more comedic, a cop comes in because the whole area is taped off as a crime scene. Hey, there's an active crime scene. You can't be here. And instead of trying to pretend to do anything, Frankenstein just picks up the cop. She's a smaller woman. Picks her up and just dumps her into the grave and theoretically kills a cop immediately. And then they just walk off into the sunset. And I fucking adore it. Because it's not trying to be anything it's not supposed to be.
And then you get, this is the part where I wrote down, this is weird that they're high schoolers, where there's like that erotic scene between them.
Well, we don't know if he's a high schooler, but it's insinuated he's at least close to that age.
Yeah.
But yes, you have a confirmed high school student. She is sewing genitalia onto a man to prepare for sex. And then she's kind of like, and gives a nod. She looks at it. He keeps looking but doesn't want to look. So it shows the awkward teenage that you're saying. And then she kind of looks at it.
Actually,
she's like, okay, this will work. Like, I got no problems with
and
this.
that's one another moment where the cinematography doesn't work for me, because they start with the wide shot of her like kneeling down and sewing it on.
Yeah.
Like, they should have done it in opposite, where you don't know what she's doing, but she's down there, and then it's revealed that she's sewing a dick onto his body.
Yeah, it's very
It's like
irreverent.
yeah, and that would be like just a purely visual joke.
Yes. So, but again, I do love the fact that at the end she just kind of goes, yeah, this will work. They go out to the tanning bed. They're skipping away after he's gotten electrocuted again because now he has a functioning set of genitalia. And the whole time, Can't Fight This Feeling is playing, but it's a redone version with a woman who has a beautiful voice singing it in a far more slowed down romantic way, which is another great callback to say how that was raw emotion the first time it was shown, but now this is pure true love happening, even in this very weird fucked up way. This is two people that truly love each other, and it becomes over the top 80s movie in the best ways possible because of that song choice. And they still have little nods where like they're getting ready for sex. She's in like the over the top nightie that is lingerie, but it's not. It still covers her very well, so it's still not too much. I think what I like about it is, as you say, it's weird to see a scene that's theoretically erotic or is erotic between high schoolers, and they never do enough for you go, that's not okay.
Yeah, it's it doesn't go into the euphoria territory where like they go into it.
Yeah.
Like, this is just hinted at mostly.
And I like that it's understanding of what the audience is at the moment. We're invested in, you know, young love. We're not invested in, oh, they're about to do it. I think that's not the point.
Yeah.
And they have the wonderful little scene in which, it's insinuated they're going to have sex. And it's super confident. He's on top of her, and a fucking like centipede falls on her. He moves it to nod back, get another call back in. Say he's still dead in there somewhere, but he's coming back to life. She flips him, looks up, gives him like assuring, yes, I'm okay with giving myself to him. And then they do an animated sequence that they're riding a rocket into a moon. It's insinuating, yes, they had sex during this time. They don't show it, so again, balance is struck. Then they end up by the tanning bed because they know their time's about to end.
Yeah.
And another detail work that I absolutely adore, solely because it's been ingrained in my head since marrying my wife. Do you remember when we were doing Madam Web and one of the comments Ab made was, this bitch is in the jungle without even a hair tie?
Mm-hmm.
She hates that shit. She's like, what woman is going down with her hair down, trekking through the jungle? Or only a JanSport with a flannel and jeans on? Are you out of your fucking mind? Like, those are the details my wife hates. I noticed how they still had kind of like down frizzy hair, and she was kind of wet from sweat, and he kind of looked a little disheveled. So it's still enough where it looks pretty and it looks emotional and not over the top wildly sexual, but it's honest. It's like, no, you sweat during sex, this happens. And it's still elegant and pretty, but it's not dishonest. And then she tells him, hey, I'm going in the tanning bed, electrocute me to death because there's no other way.
Mm-hmm.
Very emotional. She lays down, she gives him a note. They kiss one more time, and then he electrocutes her to death. Which is so funny. It's as you hear police sirens coming to the house, coming to catch them. And then he reads the note, and she's just like, death is temporary, I'll love you forever. And then it has the lightning bolt written on it, saying, you know what to do. You can save me again. But everyone has to believe I'm dead.
So are we meant to believe that she no longer is going to have a relationship with her father and her sister?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, look at it. Does she have a relationship with her dad?
Yeah, not really, I guess.
And then with Taffy, she's already accepted that loss because she says, I hurt you. I'm sorry. She
Mm-hmm.
knows Taffy ain't probably going to take her back. Anyway, so it's just, this is the relationship I have, and this is what I want to do, which I like. But it's interesting to see that happen. And I do love the little details of never getting too serious in the end. The shed is on fire with the tanning bed. All the neighbors are out and about. Taffy's in the background on an ambulance, and a stretcher near an ambulance. And then a kid drives up on his bike, and he's just like in awe and kind of horrified, but still goes, bitchin'. Well, there's a shed on fire where I'm like, accurate, still fun. And then we cut to Lisa's gravestone, and the little details are really smart here, which I adore. At this point, was the edible kicking in that you had while watching this?
Yeah, by the end it was.
For context.
So I probably didn't notice whatever you just are talking about.
I was gonna say
But we'll
I
see.
could tell in commentary where we were both like really invested, and then where your night started to kick in a little bit because all of a sudden you're like slowly not speaking as much. But did you notice on the gravestone there's a chip and it's blackened and it looks like it was struck by lightning?
Oh no.
So it's right on the top of the corner, just like with Frank's gravestone.
His. Yeah.
And then, Taffy and Dale, her dad, are paying their respects. And the whole time, Taffy, what I love is this great character growth from Taffy. not character growth, but shows how it's changed her. She still has like a tighter floral shirt on, so she's still stylish and it's tight fitting, but it's not the prom queen. It looks like, and she has her hair tied back very simply. She's in full pants and boots. It looks like she's embraced a little bit of Lisa's style and grown up, and she isn't. I'm popular girl. She's grown up a little bit from this experience. And the whole time she's uneasy because you can tell she loved Lisa, but she was hurt by Lisa. And there's all these little things that she doesn't like. And Dale is so fucking dumb. He doesn't notice on the corner of the gravestone is etched beloved wife.
Well, I had a big problem with that because who paid for that headstone if not the dad?
I mean, I would assume the dad, but then I think it's a great nod back to this, is they do address it where Taffy asks who put the flowers there. They have flowers, and there's a ton of flowers at Lisa's gravesite. And Dale says, well, there's a lot of sickos obsessed with our family because of what happened in the past. So you could say he notices, hey, there's a lot of weird people out in the world. I can't stop them. But it's hilarious to think he's just so, like, whatevs in life that he just doesn't pay attention to that. I think it works, personally. I really enjoy that moment because I think it speaks to the character and also explains it away enough that you're like, okay. And then I like that he's like, all right, let's go visit your mom, and then let's go to Fuddruckers. And I'm like, that is so nonchalant Midwestern dad. I don't know what the fuck is. Yeah. Which is hilarious. But then they show the beloved wife etching on the gravestone. There's 2 peach rings there, which they used as wedding rings, and a lot of flowers. So it's a lot of nice little callbacks. So it's both teenage but also respectful in life and love, and it's very well done, in my opinion. I just think it's very done very well.
Yeah, I like the reveal, the beloved wife thing. I like that reveal. It's just logically makes absolutely no sense. But I can suspend my disbelief on that.
And then there's one final scene where you see Frankenstein is fully recovered. He's talking. He's reading her a book on the same park bench that she lured Doug to his death. And then it slowly pans towards the front. You see it from the back. And then he slowly pans to the front. And then it's a fully wrapped up Lisa, and she's clearly been revived from the dead. But she's not fully adjusted yet. And
this last scene didn't work at all for me, though. And it's purely because Cole Sprouse.
I think that might be your own personal dislike for Cole Sprouse, because I think it works.
But, no, because, reading poetry out loud to someone, what's more pretentious than that?
Fair. But also...
And because the actor, I know he's like that. I can't help but think the character's like that.
Fair, but it's also a guy from, 17 or 1800s.
Yeah, I suppose.
And also, I don't know if it's inherently poetry, but it feels like it could be poetry. And I love the fact... Did you notice his suspenders? His suspenders are rainbow striped, so they're clearly not they're not old school. They're clearly 70s disco or 80s suspenders. So he has that whole old 1700s, 1800s look to him, but then he has the modern nod of the suspenders that are rainbow, which I fucking loved when I noticed it. And Lisa's just eyes opening as this dead corpse, Bride of Frankenstein-esque character. I really liked that. Is it perfect? No, I'm not gonna lie. I would have had the hair up. I would have had the lightning bolt in there. I would have just been like, everyone knows what we're going for. Let's just fucking go.
Yeah.
With it.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think it works very well. I think the scene works very well. I think you don't like it because of Cole Sprouse, not because of the scene itself.
No. I'm purely admitting that is why I don't like it. 'Cause, yeah, it's like a curse. Like I know too much about him that I
How
can't
did
take
you
my
learn?
mind off
How
of
did
it.
you learn this much about Cole Sprouse?
I think it was mostly about memes from memes online.
Okay, but that is the end of Lisa Frankenstein. It's about an hour and 41-minute runtime, so we've clearly overrun on the podcast with runtime. However, final thoughts on this film?
I think it's an enjoyable watch. I think it definitely is a very niche in
Very
terms
niche.
of if you like horror comedy, you'll probably enjoy it. But I think um, it really reflects in the box office, like just how hard horror comedy is to really connect to like a big audience. Because um, it made 9.8 million domestically,
Ooh.
and I thought I read this wrong, but the foreign markets it made $153,000, and that's it.
Oh, that's brutal.
I'm just like, I mean, this movie definitely deserves a lot more than that. Like,
Yeah.
because there's like shit movies that make way more than that. But
I think that's a good astute observation on your part in which I don't know how the marketing of this film really did well with it because it makes it look zany, but makes it look horror, but also makes it young teenagerish. So if you look at this, this is a coming of age horror rom com. This is Warm Bodies. That's
mhm,
closer to Warm Bodies than it is
yeah,
slasher. And I think that
yes,
that's a really hard balance to strike. And if you do the marketing well, it came out at Valentine's Day for obvious reasons. If you do that well, if you thread that needle well, this can be a really fun little cult hit when it comes out that just proliferates and makes a ton of money afterwards through streaming deals and personal rentals and shit like that. When you don't do it well, and it if you were going to say what genre does this movie fit in? Is it a horror comedy? Is it coming of age? Is it a rom com? What is it?
from the marketing, it would feel more like a horror rom com kind of thing. But I think the movie much more is a coming of age story than anything
It's a coming of age
when you actually
story.
watch it.
To me, this feels very Marvel esque. And what I mean by that is Marvel doesn't make. Obviously, every Marvel movie is a superhero movie, right? But Marvel doesn't make straight superhero movies anymore. They
Yeah, they have
make
genre.
they make genre films with a superhero. To me, this
Yes.
isn't a horror comedy. This is a coming of age movie within the horror comedy genre. It's not a it's not strictly a horror comedy because horror comedy to me that's Evil Dead, that's Tucker and Dale, that's a lot of different films that have come out and been cult classics at this point. To me, this is far more of a coming age film wrapped in a nice horror comedy lens. Um, so I think
Mhm.
inherently that makes it difficult to A, to market, and then B, find its audience. Because you're right, it's a niche film.
Yeah.
If you fit the niche, this film is perfect for you, which is why I love it as much as I do. It's
And
horror
I
comedy,
think
coming of
general
age, it's crazy.
yeah, I think general audiences probably would enjoy it. It's just they'll never watch it based on the marketing.
Yes, and this movie kind of opens my eyes to how many movies are out there that, due to the marketing, I probably have never watched and never would. But if I
Yeah,
actually sat
exactly.
down and tracked them down and watched, I'd probably really enjoy them because
Mhm.
I love that they have the Rotten Tomatoes meter on Peacock for this,
Yeah.
and it's at 51% rotten by critics, but it's an 81% audience score. That's a high fucking audience score to have on Rotten Tomatoes, which shows
Yeah.
you the people that watch this as moviegoers really like it. It's the
Mhm.
critically it's not that good, which I can understand, but it's a worthwhile film to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely divisive in terms of like just like Heather's or anything like that was like
Yes.
it's never going to appeal to everyone, but I think there's enough in this to where general audiences probably would enjoy it if they gave it a chance.
Yes, and I think that's why I feel this movie is extremely worthwhile to watch. And if you like horror, if you like comedy, if you like rom coms, if you like coming of age, if you like 80s, this movie can work for any of those things. And if you're like me who loves all five of those things, this movie's perfect for you. So,
Yeah,
this movie, the thing I love about this movie is this feels like a movie I would try to write. And it's kind of like, oh, fucking love this movie. Is everybody going to have that feeling? No. That's how I feel about it. So I wanted to share that.
and unfortunately, yeah, that's kind because I don't hate it or I don't love it. It's just kind of right in the middle. Where if it had more style to it, I'd probably like it a little more. But it's well written, it's well acted. I think um, in terms of like considering it's her first full length feature, it's really impressive from Zelda Williams.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool artistry in it. It's just doesn't hit on all cylinders.
This movie, I will say, makes me more interested to watch what Zelda Williams does next. Because there is a sensibility, there is a style here, and it's someone who hasn't fully grasped what they do yet, in my opinion. I think the most astute critique of this film was when you're like, I wish they would go further. I thought you would think this
Yeah.
when we first talked about watching this, I thought you might go the opposite way, where you're like, what the fuck are they doing? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And instead, you were
I
much
would
like,
just
I wish they would go further with it. I wish they'd push the boundary even further.
there it's like a very unsatisfying middle ground where they just don't commit enough to a style.
And I think that's where I am still extremely interested to see what Zelda Williams does outside of this. And I would love to see what she does without Diablo Cody. Because, all due respect to Diablo Cody, she writes a very specific way. She does a very specific
Yeah.
thing. So I'd be interested to see how much of this is Diablo Cody's writing working really well and Zelda Williams not committing enough as a director, or how much of this is Zelda finding her voice and not getting there quite yet. Because once she hits that second
Yeah.
or third big thing, now we're really going. It's no different than when we talked about Tim Burton a lot in this. Tim Burton is not Tim Burton in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It's getting there, but he's not fully there. He gets to Beetlejuice, and you're like, this is a fucking
Well,
artist. And then he gets to Batman, and you're like, holy shit, this guy can direct movies.
and unfortunately, because this movie didn't make that much money, it might take her a long while to get to the point where she can actually make just the story she wants to tell.
Yes. I think she'd be perfect as a hire for a Netflix project or like a streaming platform. Hey, we're going to spend $10 million on this. We know it's small budget. We want to get something for our streaming platform. I think she'd be a perfect choice to say, do you have a unique story you want to tell? And go that way.
Yeah.
And before we completely lose hope with her, don't worry because, I mean, fuck. The writers of Madam Web have continually found work for over a decade. They have never made a good film.
Yeah.
They've made a decent film
Yeah.
with Power Rangers, and that was it. So,
I mean, think of the people who wrote the Transformers, well, at least the first three Transformers, uh, Orsi and Kurtzman. They almost helmed the entire Universal monster movie universe at one point.
yep.
So bad people get shit made all the time. So hopefully because I think she's actually talented. So I hope she does make more.
Yeah, let's hope so. But this is fun. I would agree that this is far more worthwhile for people if you're in the niche, but even if you're not, I think this is worth a watch. It's a worthwhile movie, and this is definitely 10 to 15 years from now. gonna be one of those movies people track down once they see it on a streaming service.
Yeah, I
Like,
can
oh
see
shit,
that.
that's on here, or this becomes a cult Halloween movie or a cult Valentine's Day movie. It's like, oh, I love that movie. Let's watch that because I think it hits a lot of notes and nods to go with. Um, Now, before we end this here show, will ask everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, check out the rest of our content. Monday, you're getting some Pokemon card pack, which is fun. Tuesday, it's the ONETA show. You're already technically here. You're also getting Saturday's show as well. The ONETA show, it's the rotating topic flagship show. A lot of gaming, a lot of movies, a lot of different things on the ONETA show. Wednesday, it's custom Fakemon for our Fakemon region, the Pokemon Bliss and Oblivion project. Thursday, check out the ONETA football show. We have new episodes returning. We're getting into our NFL expansion series, which is going to be really fun as we prepare for this upcoming NFL season. And Friday, you're getting all those cool rotational shows. So you get the ONETA Adventure show, you get the ONETA Brick Builders show with some Lego stuff, or you get Pokemon card pack openings, Yu-Gi-Oh card pack openings, even some more Kana stuff, and a lot of new specialty projects are coming your way as well. And you're already here, you already love it, you already know it, but Saturdays, the new ONETA movie show is up and running. So every Saturday, go check out the ONETA movie show if you love listening to us talk movies. We thank you guys for your support, but that's going to do it for today's episode. Yes, sir.
Before we go, should we announce what we want to do next?
That was where I was going. So,
One second. I have a sheet of all my movies.
Oh, shit. So, as he runs to go get his sheet of movies, I will say this. On the next edition of the show, we are going to be we're going with our big box office series, and it's solely just ONETA movie show. No crossover next time. And we are watching 1982's E.T. as part of our big box office series, which is going to be really, really fun as we continue watching every single number one hit from yesteryear. However, when we go to the cult classic series, what are we going to next?
Do you want me to give you 3 options and then you pick?
Well, we did discuss this in the past. We were thinking about the Burbs for the next cult classic, but I have no issue announcing 2 of them off the bat.
Okay, because I was thinking the Burbs, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, or Clue, but Clue could be more towards Halloween, I guess.
Yeah, so we're going to do the Burbs for the next cult classic. So the next couple shows that we're going to have, I actually have this schedule as we've done it so far. Next episode is E.T. in the big box office series. Then we're doing another crossover episode with the ONETA show, continuing the cult classics, and we're going to do the Burbs. After that, we're going to do a creative project and a big box office project, and then we're going to do a back-to-school movie crossover, which is going to be really interesting and really fun. For the next cult classic, I think Monty Python's perfect for that. So our next cult classic series, which is going to be in a couple episodes, we're going to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which I believe is 1975, which still to this day I think has one of, if not the funniest scene ever made in film history. So,
I think it's a perfect movie.
I was dying the first time I watched Monty Python from Winter, so I'm excited to get to watch that. But that is what we're going to be doing over the next couple shows. We're going to get some more big box office in there with E.T., go to the Burbs, and do a lot of fun, new, exciting things over on the show. But that is going to do it for our episode today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out the rest of our content. Check out our socials for clips of the show and other things that you may enjoy. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a subscribe. And if you really want to support us, go over to our Etsy shop, ptecreative.etsy.com. But that is going to do it for us here today. Peace, love, and hugs to you all. Go watch a good movie. Goodbye.